Good evening and welcome to the Community Spotlight. I'm Cheryl Girl and we've got another great show lined up for you. Now listen, how many of you guys have kids at home and you're already thinking about their future? Well, if you're not, you should be, and I've got an expert here to help you with that. This is Anthony Kent. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You are an author and a mentor, a lot of different things, and you have a brand new book out called The Youth Advisor. And what exactly is that about?
The Youth Advisor is all about a young adult's journey from high school all the way into retirement. So the book provides a wealth of knowledge and information and guidance as to what decisions you should make concerning your education and budgeting as well as in investing. Overall, the book focuses on academic success, financial success, and effective decision making.
So it's sort of like a life plan and how to just get things done.
Correct.
And I started reading your book, and I one of the things I thought was outstanding, and we're going to get more into it, is the fact that you're starting them out very young, as early as ninth grade, and telling the kids how important it is to get good grades. So I'm assuming that you got good grades growing up, apparently, because you're here today writing a book. But let me ask you, Anthony, now where are you from?
I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. I was born there, but I'm raised here in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay, so now Charleston, that means you can cook a little bit, right?
My grandmother can cook. My mother, some of my aunts and uncles, they can cook. I'm learning.
You're learning.
It's a learning
okay.
process.
Okay, and that pretty much life is a learning process.
Correct.
Now you were born there, but you were raised here in Charlotte, North Carolina, right?
That's correct.
Did you go to high school here? Which one?
Yeah, I went to East Mecklenburg High School.
And then from there went on to Winston-Salem State.
Correct.
What are those What are they?
The Rams.
Excuse me. My bad.
That's
sorry.
okay.
Winston-Salem Rams. Okay. And you went on to get your MBA at Winthrop.
Winthrop University.
Okay, so you know what you're talking about.
Correct.
And as far as your background, as far as business, you've worked for some very big names. Tell us some of the companies you've worked for.
Graduating from college, my first job offer was with NASA.
What? Wow, NASA?
Yeah.
Okay, brother. Okay, let me just be uncouth for a moment. It makes me very happy to meet a black man who's worked for NASA, because I don't think I've ever actually met a real one in my life. I've seen pictures, so ta-da, Black History fact. What did you do with them?
I worked in the IT department for the National Shared Services Center.
Wow. So basically handling their computer system?
Yeah, actually, I was the 8th person hired for that new entity. So I was in there I was pretty much responsible for establishing a lot of their platform from the IT side, establishing the call center and the imaging department, their process excellence department, establishing
So all the
PMO.
things that we know about NASA, them communicating with each other, all the information they're putting out there, the work they're doing, they wouldn't be able to do if you didn't have your part set up.
I played a part in that.
Let me just give you some, kudos for that. That is big. Now, what other companies have you worked with?
I've also worked for Bank of America.
Huge.
Wachovia, Wells Fargo, IBM,
Wow.
BB&T, as well as Sara Lee.
Okay, well, so you've come from a very diverse background, and it's obviously you know what you're doing, so we can feel comfortable when he's talking to our kids. Now, what made you decide that you wanted to speak specifically to youth?
Well, a few things. So as I got older, I started to reflect back on my life and understood that I made a lot of critical mistakes growing up. Mistakes that I regret and wish I can go back in time and change.
I mean, it's hard for me to imagine that talking to someone who's worked for NASA, but I'll give you that if you say so.
Okay.
What kind of critical mistakes have you made? Because it sounds like you've had an excellent plan for living.
Okay. And so, like I said, I did have a plan. It wasn't necessarily put on paper, just kind of worked out that way to an extent. But some mistakes I've made with handling money, car purchases, ways I was spending my money as far as things that didn't appreciate. So I had to kind of learn over time what to spend your money on and what not to spend your money on, which I talk about a lot in the book as well.
Okay, well, let's start with the book. When we look at the Youth Advisor, tell us where we start and where we go to, because we've covered a lot of stuff very quickly, But let's start with these kids. Let's start with, what is the first thing, if I've got a niece or nephew, I've got sons and daughters who are in elementary school, junior high school, what are some of the first things you're going to tell them or that we can get from your new book?
Well, this is a part that you should definitely focus on with children. Of course, when you're coming into high school, the critical thing is that, hey, do you ultimately want to go to college, right?
Right.
And if that's your plan, you need to understand that there's a process in place to get to that situation. So what you want to do is first, as a young adult, start reading the dictionary, the encyclopedia.
Really?
Read the dictionary.
Sort of Malcolm X-ish, like didn't in the movie, I think he reads the dictionary every day. That's his only thing that he has. So you read the dictionary.
Actually, I did not.
You didn't, but it's a good idea.
It's a good idea. But like I said, if I can go back in time, those are one of the things I would have done. I would have read the dictionary, also the encyclopedia, read more books. These are things that you should do as a young adult growing up, because eventually you're going to have to take those standardized tests, and you're concerned about your GPA. So reading a dictionary is going to help you with your vocabulary, encyclopedia, and understanding what's going on. And when you read these questions on the SAT, it's going to help you be able to strategically answer those questions appropriately.
Wow, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. So now, what else would you suggest to the middle school kids?
The middle school kids understand that you need to develop a good work ethic when you're younger. Kind of have some structure to your life. So
you got to break that down, because if you're a teenager and you're listening right now, work ethic. What does that mean when you say work ethic?
Of course, at the age of 8th grade, you're not working at that time, right?
But you still have to have it. So how do they apply it to school?
So the first thing you should be doing at that age is kind of focus on your time management, which is definitely big. So you're in school all day, right? So you're in school, then you come home. So what do you do now?
Pick up a video game.
Pick up a video game, right? But more than likely, I'm pretty sure you have some homework.
Yes.
You need to be reading, doing something educational to further your life ahead. The bad part is, unless children have proper guidance and their parents have a set plan for them, sometimes those elements are overlooked. So you're not being forced to read books. You're not being forced to read the dictionary, the encyclopedia, which are actually, making you more knowledgeable. Those are things you should be planning. So you want to structure your life. So you get off from school, you go home, you do your homework, you pick up a book, you read a dictionary. You need to have a plan set so you can progress as you get older.
Okay. So when we go inside the book and we start looking at some of the different chapters, let's talk about that. So we got the kids, we're going to get this work ethic in place, and we want them to pick up something educational. So according to your book, what are some of the other things, some of the other topics that will apply to kids to get their lives, in order to achieve their goals?
So the first chapter in the book is navigating through high school, right? Which is pretty much the first.
Was that
hurdle.
easy for you here in Charlotte?
Yeah, it was pretty easy.
You seem like an honor roll type of student. Were you?
At times. At times, I was on an honor roll. And I probably could have had straight A's my whole time in school. But the educational side of the house wasn't always my main focus.
Okay.
It should have been, but
that's reality.
But it wasn't.
But the thing of it is, we see you sitting here as a successful business person. So, there's something to be learned. You can, no matter whether you were straight. I know people who got straight A's are doing nothing.
Correct.
With their lives. And I know some mediocre students like me, and other people who like doing things. So we can all learn from everybody.
So going back to high school,
right.
What you need to understand is, coming in as a freshman, you need to be focused on your dream. What path do you want to take? What do you want to be when you grow up? Do you want to be a lawyer, a doctor, a project manager? You want to be a business owner? You have to have some idea of where you want to be in life and need a plan for that. And that more than likely, that's going to start with your education, right? So if you want to go off to college, if that's your first step, you need to make sure that you have the right GPA. You need to make sure you have the right SAT scores and ACT scores. And you need to understand the colleges that you want to go to. More importantly, you need to understand your major.
And how do you pick a major?
Well, there's a few things you can do to understand your major. First of all, while you're in school and you're getting your grades, you need to understand what you're good at. Were you good in science? Were you good in math? Was it something in PE? You need to understand, was it something in English, history? First, you need to understand what you're good at, what you like doing and what you don't like doing.
Right.
Do you like children? From you watching the media, do you have any family members, church members? What are some of their professions? Do you like what they do? Get exposure to different professions. And then once you get that exposure, then you want to go say, hey, well, these colleges offer these majors, right? This is what I want to do when I get older. But more importantly, you want to understand, what lifestyle do you see yourself living?
Now that's important.
And that's really the first step. So you need to say to yourself, well, do you like the finer things in life? Do you want a big house, a fancy car? Do you want to travel?
Right.
And I'm pretty sure everyone does. But reality is, those expenses cost money.
Lots of money.
Lots of money.
So you have to figure out early how to get to the money.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things I want to go over with you, a lot of people don't make it to the college step. A lot of people kind of, flatten out in high school, and a lot of people drop out. So now, what are some of the things that you have found in talking to youth, being out there and being a mentor, and talking about a success plan for young adults? What are some of the things you're hearing from kids that are derailing them in high school?
Well, the worst part is, and a lot depends on how you're raised, your parents, your environment, and sometimes we can't control those things because everyone's dealt a different hand of cards.
Yes.
Right. But it is your decision to decide how you want to play those hands, play that hand. So let's say you were dealt a hand of 2s and 3s. That's an unfortunate situation, right? But you can turn those cards into...
I've never heard it put that way. You're right. Yeah, that is unfortunate.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But you can still turn those cards into kings, queens, and jacks, is all in how you play those cards, right?
Okay.
So that's the most important element. Understanding your current situation. Be realistic where you're at in life. You might not come from an affluent background. Your parents might not have money, but that does not determine your path. It might hinder it. It might hinder you to an extent, or it might put some obstacles in place. I'm sorry, but that's not going to prohibit your future.
So what are kids actually saying to you when they okay, Mr. Ken, the reason I'm not doing well in school, the reason I had to finish high school, what are some of the things they're telling you?
Some things are distractions, family issues, things going on in family.
Family straight acting up at the house. They're trying to study. Mom and daddy acting up. You know who you are.
Definitely. A lack of income.
Right. Money affects everything.
And that's getting exposure to extracurricular activities, more reading, buying books, just being able to have additional funds to gain access to additional...
going to the science camp in the summer, that type of thing.
Correct. Those are things that are definitely needed, as well as peer pressure, which is definitely...
Peer pressure.
Critical.
So,
definitely critical.
I mean, you're talking to children every day. How do you get them to get focused on their path to success as opposed to worrying about the party that's on Friday?
So my main thing is being realistic with them. And I feel that at certain ages, certain parents or people they're involved with, they're not having realistic conversations with them that are definitely needed. Some parents you might have that kind of sugarcoat things, and they don't want to expose you to certain things. But I think it's definitely important for parents and any family members or people that you're close to have those discussions with you at a young age. So when you get older, things aren't a shock to you.
Right.
So you definitely need that guidance at a very young age. You need to say, hey, well, if you don't do X, Y, Z, this could potentially happen to your future. You might not be able to meet your dreams or exceed your dreams.
You might not get that car, those vacations, that dream house if you don't start now. So if you have parents who are not necessarily giving you that type of advice, do you have any suggestions for what young people can do as far as finding other mentors like you?
Yeah, so I would say the easiest path to get a mentor is to identify someone that has a background in something that you want to do.
Okay.
Someone that you look up to.
Right.
Because when you're getting advice, you should get advice from someone who has things you have or have similar accomplishments that you wish you could be in that same situation. So first identify that person, and then when you reach out to them, if they're not available, because of course everyone doesn't have time for everything, but you want to reach out to them and say, hey, well, can you be my mentor? If they're not available, ask them if there's someone else they recommend so they can mentor you as well. And it all starts with communication. You have to open your mouth. You have to extend your opportunity and let people know that you want help.
So we're going to figure out what we want to do. We're going to reach out to a mentor. And what are some of the other areas that we, without sugarcoating anything, let's get some good information out of here. What are some of the other steps that kids can take or parents can help them and guide them towards that we can find in the Youth Advisor?
Well, definitely they can, if you're a parent, sit down and have a conversation with your child. Understand what are their dreams. Who are some people that they believe are successful. Is it a family member? Is it a teacher? Is it a church member? Identify what they want to do, and then sit down with them, document all those goals and certain accomplishments that they want to have in life, and then start building out a plan to get to that point. So let's say if you want to go to a certain college, go ahead and understand where is the school at,
Right.
possibly go visit the school, understand what majors the school offers, how do you get into the school, what are the requirements, the GPAs, the
Right.
SAT score. Understand the information early on rather than later, because when you're going to college, sometimes applying early is important, right? So
Right.
when you're looking at colleges, you want to have a list of like probably your top 5 schools you want to get into, right?
Yes.
And then while you're in high school and you're getting your grades, make sure that you're getting the grades that's going to allow you to get into that school. And that's why I said it's very critical that when you're young to read the dictionary, to read the encyclopedia, to read books, to further your knowledge, because when it comes time, you'll be able to perform effectively on those tests.
And that makes sense. So if we can figure out a major and we can get through high school, once we start talking about college and we've gotten our GPA in place and we know what they require, let's talk about the money.
Okay.
I mean, can you give us advice on how to figure out college cost? Because you can get there, and I know so many people have gone to school. Well, first of all, they got the grades to get in and didn't have the money to go.
Okay.
Or they got there, ran out of money, and then the other side of it, you get out of it, and you owe $1 gazillion.
Okay.
So do you have any words of wisdom on that, Anthony?
Yeah, so that goes back when I was talking about the lifestyle. aspect,
We
right?
all want to live big. So let's start that we all want to be balling.
Okay. So the first thing is when we were talking about looking at different colleges,
Right?
understand how much that college costs.
Yes.
Right? So colleges have different ranges. You might have a college when you leave you're going to owe $30,000. You might have a college when you leave you're going to owe $100,000. So first of all, you need to understand how much are you willing to pay for your education,
Wow.
and then also is it worth it?
Now, when you say, is it worth it, is the cost of the education worth it? That's what you mean?
That's exactly what I mean. So I have a chapter in my book that's called Return on Education.
Okay.
So that helps you understand where you're going to school at. Is it worth you spending the money for that education?
So help me understand that. Like when you say, is it worth it? What do you mean? Like what you pay each year for school?
Correct. So
Okay.
let's say you're looking at a school. Maybe it's a private school, and it costs anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 a year, right? So now
Hold up. Make sure that you're paying attention to this. If you're looking at a school, you need to figure out what it costs each year for you to go. $20,000 to $50,000
at certain private
So
schools.
if you get through in 4 years, you're looking at a big difference between $20,000 a year and $50,000 a year. Okay, I'm sorry, I got sticker shock when you said that.
Definitely. And the reason why I say that is because you need to understand what major you're going to take, and then what job opportunities are available. It's kind of like a supply and demand thing. So when you're picking a major, you want to pick a major that's in demand. So let's say if you like history, right? And you want to be a history major, you got to ask yourself, well, okay, let's say if I go to school, right? Am I going to a private school to learn history? Is that going to cost me $80,000, right? So let's say you graduate and you don't get a job offer.
Right.
Well, more than likely that has a lot to do with the supply and demand side of the house. Now, even though you do have that degree and you graduated, which is a great accomplishment, you might not have a job.
Right. Are there any jobs out there?
Correct. And you need to
Wow.
understand the whole purpose of going to college is to get a job. That's the ultimate reason. So while you're in school, you want to make sure you've planned for that situation. And going back to the return on education, if you're a history major and you spend $80,000, let's say you do get a job, right?
That is a lot of money to major in history.
But let's say you're only getting paid $35,000 or $40,000.
Wow, and you are already coming out owing $80,000.
Now you owe $80,000, right?
Yes.
So when you're talking about identifying how much school's going to cost, so there are a lot of websites, and I have those resources in my book as well that talks about how do you calculate your cost of school, right?
Can you tell us like maybe just one of the sources for that?
Yeah, so there's a website called Mapping Your Future. So
Mapping Your Future.
Yeah. And you can, like I said, if you have the book, you can go check it out or whatnot. But you can also just Google student loan calculators.
Okay.
So what happens when the student loan comes up, you will type in how much you've estimated the cost to go to school. So let's say it's going to cost you $50,000, right?
Right.
So you would type in $50,000. You would type in the duration. So let's say it's going to take you 10 years, and the interest rate is 6% or 6.8, right?
Right.
So you put those numbers into the calculator. After you've done that, it's going to estimate your monthly payments when you graduate.
Really?
So let's say at $50,000, you're roughly going to spend around $500 a month.
Wow.
So $500 a month, it might not seem a lot by itself, right? But
when you start in the rest of your life expenses.
So now let's incorporate that $500 into your budget.
Right.
So let's say you have an apartment or you have a home. Let's just say you have a mortgage. Your mortgage is $1,000.
Okay.
Your student loans are $500.
We're 15 already.
Now let's say you have a car payment. Let's say your car payment is anywhere from $300 to $500. We're at $2,000 now,
Yes.
right? Now let's say if you only make $2,000.
And we don't even have the lights on yet.
Correct.
Wow.
These are a lot of factors that a lot of students don't think about when they're getting their education. Because reality is, when you graduate, and right now, 83% of college students are graduating without jobs. And that's reality.
Did you say 83%?
83%.
Really?
83%.
So it seems to me that if you're getting ready to go to school or you're preparing a child to, even in high school, we've got to figure out what kind of jobs are going to be paying money they're going to make going to college worth it.
Correct.
You know?
And that's reality.
That is reality.
Because what reality is that when you graduate, even if you don't have a job, 6 months later, that $500 bill that we talked about is going to come in the mail.
Yes.
And you have to pay it. Now, of course, you can defer, but sooner or later, you have to pay it, and you can't default on student loans.
Yeah, well, and believe me, they will find you. The student loan people can find you no matter where you go in life. So this is really great advice. Now, do you have a website, Anthony? Because I know people are going to hear you and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I need to know more about this.
I do. The website is www.theyouthadvisor.com.
Theyouthadvisor.com. So when we started thinking about this money, that is really scary. So you said earlier that the reason you wrote is because you made some mistakes and you thought about some things that you could have done better. So what are some of the other things that when you look back at your life, you put in the book for kids to learn from?
Well, one critical mistake I made was buying a car.
Oh, your first car?
Actually, my second car.
Okay, tell us what you did, because we want to know. Because you seem pretty perfect to me, and it's hard to imagine you making a mistake. So give us the 411.
So I took a trip to a used car dealership.
Uh-huh.
It was kind of one of those buy here, pay here places. Right. I went in, test drove a car, loved the car.
Emotional attachment to the car.
told the salesperson I wanted.
Right.
I had my cash ready on hand. Mm-hmm. So he drew up the paperwork. I thought I totally owned the car. He put some tags on my car, and then I drove off into the wind.
So you thought you had paid for the whole thing?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
How old were you?
I was 18 years old.
18.
So what happened was, roughly a month later, I happened to get pulled over by the police.
Okay.
And the police officer told me that I had a fictitious tag. So
he gave you fake tags?
He gave me, the 30-day
right.
tag. He gave me a fictitious tag, and I got fined, which was I think a $250
Oh
fine.
Wow.
Definitely. So what happened was at that point in time, upset. Definitely.
I'm sure you were very upset.
So, of course, after I'm written my ticket, I call him. And I said, hey, I got pulled over by the police, explained the situation to me, explained the situation to him.
Uh-huh.
And then he said, yeah, well, what happened was the car I gave you, I actually don't have the title at this point in time.
So you had paid for it with your hard-earned cash. You get a ticket, and you don't even own the car?
Correct. Well, technically, from our discussion and the paperwork, I'm assuming that I do own the car. Right, because I have a bill of sale.
But if he doesn't have the title, he can't sell it to you.
Correct. That means he should have never actually sold the car to me. So, in actuality, he was selling a car for a friend, and his friend was out of town, so he was more so like a third party. But he did not explain that up front, in which he should have.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with doing that, but you should explain that up front.
And that's one of the things about your book, In the Youth Advisor. You're giving us some real, I guess, hard-earned information here because you've been through it.
Correct.
So you're taking kids all the way from basically elementary school, junior, middle school, through the college phase, and even getting them, out of college, paying back the loan, buying cars. What about, do you ever cover buying a home or any other topics?
Yeah, so the chapters range
that's a lot in one book.
Definitely, and it's definitely needed. So talk about...
It's not needed just for kids. It's needed for some grown-ups. I need to read this, and I know you probably do too.
Yeah. So like I said, the book focuses on navigating through high school, preparing for college, financial aid, getting a return on education, college resources, sports and education, car buying.
Oh, wait, we got to talk about that. Now, what do you advise kids about as far as sports and education?
Just understanding the business side of sports, and that sports are not guaranteed.
Like student athletes.
Correct. So
everyone's not going to be a LeBron James.
Correct. Understanding the odds of you becoming that LeBron James, and the educational side of being an athlete as well. So
but what's the problem? Because don't most athletes have scholarships? So
they do.
What advice do they need if they've got a scholarship? They're lucky enough to have that luxury.
So the main advice is when you're in school, make sure that you pick a major that you can actually utilize when you graduate. That's the most important thing, because your career as an athlete is not promised.
Oh, not at all.
People get injured all the time. You have knee injuries, Achilles, shoulders. There's anything that can happen that can end your career.
You need a plan B.
A plan B, as well as an exit strategy if you even do make it to that level.
And we can get all that in the Youth Advisor?
It's all in there.
Really? So right now, if I think I have a friend who their son signed their papers to say where they're going to play basketball.
Letter of intent?
Yes, letter of intent. And they could read this book and they get information on the best way to handle that, not just picking a good major, but when you say exit strategy, you mean from professional sports?
Correct. So if you look at a lot of our retired professional players, they are doing some fantastic things. Think about your Charles Barkleys, your Michael Jordans, Jamal Mashburns.
Yeah, they're making huge money.
Huge money. So that was all about branding. So understanding you can't play sports forever, so you need to have an exit strategy. What does your life look like when you finish playing? How are you going to utilize that education that you got in college?
And that's one of the things I think not just athletes, but all kids and parents and teachers need to pick this up. And actually, they actually did invite you over, Anthony, to talk. Are you available to talk to groups and do different things like that?
I am.
Okay, so we can get more information on you and on your book, but tell me the website again.
www.theyouthadvisor.com.
And just one quick summary of the book. When they pick it up, the one thing they're going to get from it, when they get through reading, they're going to have a plan for success, right?
Correct.
And I want to say, from what I've read, it's not just for kids. I strongly advise that parents read it too. You've got so much great information, and we appreciate the great work that you have done. You know what? I think we've got so many things to cover. Would you be willing to come back to the Community Spotlight?
I would.
Because I've got to pick your brain some more. All right. Website one more time?
www.theyouthadvisor.com.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us on Community Spotlight. Thank you, Anthony Kent. Pick up the book, check out the website, and join us again here next week on Community Spotlight. I'm Cheryl Girl. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Regardless of what